Hi, I'm Ryan, and you're watching my YouTube series on functional programming. If you're enjoying this series, please subscribe, like, or let me know in the comments. In this episode, we are going to learn how to implement a lazy container to delay execution. Well, you might be thinking, what is a lazy container? And what does it mean to delay execution? Well, a lazy container is a way for you to define a sequence of operations that only get executed when the calling program decides. In order to understand what this means and how we can build one, let's first take a look at a regular container. So this is my original container where I have a constructor, a static auth function, a map function, and a fold function. And then I have a bunch of functions over here which are going to transform our data. So I have a print which is simply printing stuff, and then I have a greet function which adds a greeting, an exclaim function which adds an exclamation. And these functions are intentionally impure, and by impure I mean they write to the external environment. But this change has been made to demonstrate how the execution or the point of execution of these functions. So I have this code here which says container of Ethan, and it maps on greet and maps on exclaim. Now notice that I have not called the fold function, which is usually the way you trigger or you or usually the function you invoke when you are ready to consume the data from your sequence. But if I run this code here, or if I run this function over here, what's going to happen is it's actually going to run the mapping functions or the transformer functions that we have. So how can we delay the execution of these functions, right? In order to do that, we are first going to define or change what this container is. So I'm going to say container, container, container. I'm going to change it over here. I'm going to call it lazy container. And then what I'm going to do is, instead of passing it a value, I'm going to pass it a function. So maybe by looking at this code, you already have an idea of what I might do. So let's go ahead and do that. Now that my value is actually a function, I will have to invoke this function in the map. But at the same time, I must remember to pass in a function to the LazyContainer.auth, because I do not want this value to be executed immediately. So I'm waiting for this function to be triggered, and I want this function to be triggered only when I fold, because that is when my application or my calling function is ready to consume the data. So in this case, this is what I do. And with just these three changes, the first change was sending it a function. The second change was changing the implementation of map. The third change was invoking the function in my fold. With just these three changes, now if I try to run my code, notice there's no output. And why? Because we haven't called fold. And now if I simply do dot fold and I do print over here and I clear my console and I run it, notice that all the three functions ran and I got my output. So this is a very simple way for you to define or just transform a regular container into a lazy container. So instead of a value, I'm accepting a function, and in your map and fold functions, you delay the execution by wrapping your code inside of a function. Well, that's about it for this video. I hope you learned something, and stay tuned for more interesting stuff in the next episode. Thanks for watching.